So it is 11:03 Eastern. So I am going to go ahead and kick things off. First of all, I wanted to just say thank you so much for taking the time to join us for our all-participant webinar and check-in. We are so excited to share with you the latest and greatest of what's up with us. I have with me our Executive Director, Scott Cheney, our Programs and Operations Manager, Emily Raffel, our Administration Coordinator, Scarlett Van Steckelman, our Tech Lead, Jeannie Kitchens, and her Rockstar Tech team with David Garvey and Nate Argo, who are here to give you an update of what's new with the tech. So I am going to hopefully answer a lot of your questions as you go through this webinar. Please use our chat box, which you should see off to your left. And then just one more reminder that if you're not talking, if you could just mute your phone, and if you do have to take another call, please hang up and do so and call back in, because as much as we love you, we don't love your hold music. So if everybody is on the line and ready to go, I am going to turn things over to the team.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to add my good morning to everybody else's. This is Scott Cheney with Credential Engine. Very much appreciate you joining us for this update. We're going to have just a handful of slides to present to bring you up to speed on where we're at and where we're going. We'll try and make this as very succinct as we can, and welcome questions in the chat box, or if you want to raise your hand, we can make sure that we can get you off of the mute and get your questions asked. Very quick agenda. Want to do some of these updates for you. Want to update you on where the authentication system is so that you can make sure you can manage your account with us. We're going to talk some about where we are with publishing and the opportunity now for many of you who have put a few credentials in, to expand that number and to do it at scale and in a much easier way, and then be able to answer any of your questions here at the end. I am not driving today, so whoever is on the slide deck, I'm going to have us go to the next slide. And we can go one more. So just the update that we've provided to both our board and to our advisory groups. Some of you, thank you for your service on the advisory groups as well. We have, as our goals for 2018, an effort to get up to 50,000 of the credentials that are in the country into the registry. We'll provide you a quick slide in a second, but we have an estimate and a report coming out in the next few weeks that is the first ever inventory of credentials in the country. We are estimating that there are approximately 350,000 unique credentials that we're aiming to get into the registry. And our goal is to reach the 50,000 level by the end of this year. As many of you know, we have 2 state partnerships that we're working in right now, both in Indiana and New Jersey. We have a state RFP on the street right now. If any of you have not seen it, we can send that out to all of you as a follow-up to this webinar. We're in the process of identifying and selecting 2 new states who are going to begin to work with us to identify all of the credentials either across the entire state or within targeted sectors, and they'll begin to publish those credentials to the registry in coordination with the institutions that are providing those credentials. We're also going to be working this year on rolling out a couple of industry sector initiatives. We anticipate the first one being around the retail and hospitality sector. We're working to also launch sector partnerships across the country in healthcare as well as in the IT/cybersecurity space. Those are both goals that we have. And those will entail working across employers, major providers, states, and the military. We're expanding the work that we're doing with the military. I think some of you know that we've been coordinating with 2 of the training facilities within the military, the Uniformed Services University and the medical education training campus to go through the process of publishing their credentials and getting those approved to be on the registry. We're continuing to expand work across the military with a number of other branches and divisions, and are excited to continue to grow that work. And then we're continuing to identify those institutions, whether it be 4-year or 2-year, public or private systems that want to work with us and go to scale. And we're having some very exciting conversations on that front. We do have a goal of moving beyond the United States alone. And so we've been working with a team of analysts at JP Morgan Chase who have done an analysis for us about the international credentials marketplace. We're likely going to be standing up a international credentials working group this year that will help us think more deeply about how to approach this market. Some of the questions we're considering are, do we want to try and move in particular countries or particular regions? Do we want to work with particular U.S. employers who have international presence and are hiring from certain institutions around the world? Do we want to go in partnership with certain U.S. education and training providers that have partnerships around the world as well? What's really the best way to take ourselves into the international credential marketplace? And we don't have the answer to that and are always welcoming input and thoughts. You all are very familiar with the credential transparency description language. It is the secret sauce that makes all of this work, and it is, as we've always said, a living, breathing, and always evolving language. So we're continuing to do work to expand that. We're doing work this year to have new terms be developed and approved around quality assurance, to understand and be able to track and document labor market value of credentials, to give employers and employer associations the ability to signal those credentials that are of preference to their hiring or required for hiring or credentials that they recognize, and then to do a deeper job of being able to describe the education and career pathways that credentials are a part of. And then we're always looking to improve the actual process of publishing to the registry. There's been an enormous amount of great work being done at Southern Illinois' team to stand up both the API and the bulk upload processes. We're continuing to work and refine those and are working to make sure that we're meeting your needs to make this as easy a process as possible. There are some additional work, areas of work in the quality arena that we're doing now that we've gone public and launched in December and have the registry actually live. We're spending a lot more time on some of the back-end processes to make sure that we have some internal auditing. And I don't want that to be misconstrued to say that we're going to be auditing you. That's oftentimes how it's understood, but it's internally auditing the processes that we're using to be able to confirm that the credentials and the information about credentials that are in the registry are actually, presented correctly and are showing correctly, and to have the best public-facing tool that we can possibly have. We're also looking to expand how we talk to you as the providers, the kind of data that can be and might want to be published about credentials. As you all know, we have a minimum data policy, and that's a fairly accessible level of policy or of data elements that we ask you to publish. But we're looking for ways that can provide to you maybe a best practice listing, so that in addition to the minimum data, here are 10 other data points and descriptors that if you were able to publish information about your credentials would be that much richer and that much more beneficial to the end users, whether that be students or employers or guidance counselors or others. So we're going to be working on that. And then we're also working on ways that we can provide the users of this credential information, whether it be through Credential Finder or through third-party apps that are being developed, help in understanding what it is they're looking at and how to use this information so they have the best ability to make an informed decision. We're very excited that we've been able to have 2 showcases so far with partners who want to be able to pull data from the registry and think about how to use that data. We're doing a 3rd showcase in just a week and a half that will have a couple of other partners that want to be pulling the data. We're going to be continuing to have those showcases over the next few months, and we're going to complement that work by having an app development contest, we're calling it, just very loosely, and we're still framing that out, but it's going to be a chance to actually hold a series of regional hackathons and other events that will let other developers come in, look at our data, think how it can be used, how you can pair it up with wage data or employment data or local economic development data or anything else that you want to pair it with so that it's a richer set of data that can be used for different audiences. And I think we can go on to the next slide. These are just a couple of the, these are a list of the organizations that have done those showcases with us. So you can see the variety. The first in December was organized essentially around applications that could be put to use in the higher ed space. The January was more around employer applications, and then this next one is going to be back in the education space a little bit, and also looking at the CTE opportunities that this data could be used to improve. And we'll be scheduling more throughout the year as other partners come to us and begin to flesh out exactly how they may use it. We want to be presenting that out to the field so you can be seeing all those opportunities as well. And let me just say, if any of you have any interest in or ideas about ways to use this data and applications that could be developed, please let us know. We're more than happy to work with you in any way we can in order to get this information into the registry, but also out for public benefit. Okay. This is a quick look at the inventory report that we're going to be coming out with. We're working with a couple of researchers who are doing a very in-depth scan across the entire marketplace. This is a little outdated, but it's going to be closer to 350,000 unique credentials that we're going to be at a 99% confidence level that we can identify and document. There are certainly a lot of other credentials that are in the U.S. marketplace that it's just a little bit harder to get a firm number around. But this report will be coming out sometime around the end of March that will give for the first time a fairly comprehensive picture of what this marketplace actually looks like and just how large and complex it really is. And then touched on this a little bit earlier, but wanted to give you a little bit more detail about this instead of just the highlights. Indiana, as I mentioned, has already successfully published across their 2- and 4-year institutions, whether they be public or some of the private and proprietary institutions, licensing board, their work with the military, apprenticeship programs, etc. About 1,000 credentials just in the healthcare industry alone. They're now in the process of developing not developing, but taking the use cases that they had developed about how to put those credentials into play in the state and building out the tools that will let high school teachers and counselors, community college, 4-year employers, the military, everyone else be able to use this data in ways that will make the hiring and training and employment in the healthcare industry in Indiana that much more efficient and more informed. So we're very excited about what they've been doing at the Commission on Higher Ed in Indiana, and they're likely going to start working soon across other industry sectors. New Jersey has identified 7 sectors that they're going to be working in initially. They're organized around the talent development centers and are just about in a position where they're going to start publishing in these 7 sectors across the institutions that have been doing the actual credential providing into the registry, and we're excited to get that work going. We're also excited that the new administration and the new governor in New Jersey has been very supportive of this work and is committed, we understand, to continuing it. And then, as I mentioned, there are those 2 additional states that we're going to be selecting with some of the funding that we've gotten, and we're hoping to be able to raise more money throughout this year so that we can bring even more states on. I would like to get up to 10 states by the end of the year. I'm just going to take a second, and I noticed that there's a question about my previous slide about the unregistered apprenticeships and registered apprenticeships. So in our count of the 350,000, we have been able to include the list of registered apprenticeships that are managed both at the state and the department level. So that is included in the list of 350,000. The unregistered apprenticeships is harder to get our hands around because there is no central place where this data can be aggregated. So we're working with a number of partners right now to try and do a good count of how many unregistered apprenticeships are out there, how many we can be confident actually exist, and we'll add that number as we get to a high confidence level, and then we'll continue to search out others that may be in the marketplace that are issuing credentials, and as we get more confidence, they'll always be added to that count. I mentioned a little bit about the industry work we're going to be doing, and the work initially that we hope to start with the National Retail Federation, the Restaurant Association, and American Hotel and Lodging. We're excited to be able to launch that soon. And then we have been working very closely, one thing I didn't mention earlier, with the Business Roundtable. They've been very strong supporters. We actually had our launch event at their facilities, and they have 50 of their 200 CEOs who have made commitments to the success of Credential Engine and are working with us on a number of fronts. And we actually anticipate having that same kind of process with a handful of other employer associations over the coming months. And then we can move on. And just very quickly, an update on where we are with the counts themselves. Everyone likes to know how many credentials we have currently. There have been just over 2,200 credentials that have been submitted to Credential Engine. Not all of those are going to be found on the Credential Finder at this point because some of them are still in the process of being approved by the organization that has published them. We always like to have a second set of eyes and a final confirmation before it goes public. So there's just about 1,000 credentials that are in the public Credential Finder and about 2,200 that have been submitted. And one of our requests today to those of you that have not been able to do the final approval or have finalized your account with us because you were a party with us prior to the actual launch is to please work with us so that we can finalize both your account and your actual credentials so we can get those into the registry. We'd like to get the public count and the submitted count pretty much equal. And the next slide will just give you an update on the organizations that have actually submitted and the types of organizations that have submitted to us. And it's a pretty broad swath of organizations across a lot of different types of providers, which we're also very encouraged and pleased about. Okay. And then before I go on to Carrie here, I think I saw a question asking, and it may have been answered already, do we capture all degrees and 2 and 4 year? The answer is yes. That is included in the 350,000. So with that, please keep the questions coming, and I'm going to let Carrie do a quick overview of where we are on the messaging side.
Thanks, Scott. So this slide is chock full of links and resources for you to use at your leisure and to help us talk a little bit more about how we're going to spread our mission and how we are sort of presenting ourselves to the public. I know we had a question earlier about how we were educating and informing the public about our mission and the information that can be shared in Credential Engine. So one of the newest things that just got released last week was a new video that incorporates communications and some interviews and the panelists that we had at our December 7th DC launch event. So I encourage everybody to check that out. Use it as a resource in how you're explaining why we're involved in this work. I think it gives a pretty good overview of sort of why business and education and philanthropy and workforce and labor are all kind of coming together around this credential data issue. We also have other videos on our YouTube channel, so I encourage you to check us out on YouTube, which is where the All-In with Credential Engine video is linked. We have a nice little short animated video that kind of explains like what the Credential Registry is and how it works. But we do plan to not only create some spotlight videos to help kind of explain a use case. For example, we're making an Indiana video right now that will help kind of tell the story of how Credential Engine is helping not only students but employers and workforce developers improve the connections to the healthcare industry in Indiana. So that's sort of one spotlight that's definitely coming down the road. But we do plan to help with some additional video content, tell our story and continue to get testimonials and blogs and tweets and through social media helping to spread our story. I just released yesterday the first blog in our CTE month blog series with Advanced CTE, talking about how credential transparency, the importance of credential data and credential transparency to career and technical education. So that's one way we're reaching that community. I encourage you to check that blog out on our website. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We would love to engage with our users more, so if you've got a really great story about how you're using Credential Engine or a use case that you think needs to be told, please email me. My email is right there on the slide, csampson@credentialengine.org. I would love to feature you. I'd love to blog with you, and really, we're only as strong as our users and how much you guys feel that there's value in this work. So the more that I can help you guys tell your story, I think the better for all of us. I know that Scott already mentioned this a couple of times, but if you're curious about coming up with some examples of use cases for how the Credential Engine data can and is being used, you are in luck. We have an application showcase coming up on February 26th. I hope you all join us. And then one last communications update for me is that this summer we are targeting to revamp our website. I have been hearing from a number of you that there are a lot of ways that we can help communicate what we're doing to you, help navigate things a little bit better. So we will be doing a little website overhaul over the next couple of months and debuting a new slick website this summer. So come back and visit us. We'd love to get your comments and feedback on that as well. But I hope I've answered all the questions, but if you have anything else, just feel free to reach out to me. I think next up is maybe our any other questions? Yep. All right, next up is technical. All right, thank you.
Yeah, hi, this is Jeannie Kitchens, and I'm going to cover some of the technical updates about Credential Engine. And one of the things that I definitely want to encourage you to do, speaking of communications, if you haven't joined already, you have the opportunity to join a World Wide Web Consortium community group. Those of you that have been participating with our webinars know we've talked about how important it is to have linked data in the Credential Registry and on the web. This community group is aimed at introducing some of the CTDL into schema.org. It's the largest linked data repository in the world, used by all of the major search engines. So this group is extremely active right now. You can follow the link that I just put in the chat and join the group. You can also take a look at the wiki that includes some examples of the use cases that the group intends to address. And also you can receive updates and participate via email as well with this group. So along with the with the link data on the web, we have back in December 7th officially launched the Credential Registry, as well as a set of services around the registry. And the Credential Registry and services that are all available now include the ability for your organization to use any one of multiple options to get your credential information into the registry. And I'll cover those in just a moment, but we have multiple ways that you can publish your information into the registry. And with that said, organizations that want to get data out of the registry can also get data out of the registry. So we want to be able to enable having major search engines, better utilize metadata about credentials on the open web. But there will always be a place for the registry, making it very easy for developers and existing systems as well to foster an open applications marketplace. So the big picture for Credential Engine covers two sides here, the data publishers and the data consumers. So we want you to be able to publish data about credentials, related quality assurance and other information ranging from competencies to learning opportunities, assessment information. The benefit is having that structured linked data that works for interoperability between systems and in the registry and on the web. And it provides a way to communicate about data to third-party systems. So that's the important aspects of the data publishing, and then for consumers of the data, they'll be able to get up-to-date, reliable information from the registry. The registry is not an aggregator. You know how when you go to Google and you do a search, they're just aggregating other people's information. So all of the data in the registry is coming directly from the owner of that information. Of course, it's a one-stop shop, making it easier to foster that open applications marketplace. And as Carrie and Scott had mentioned, that upcoming showcase is intended to give examples of the types of applications that can benefit from having this data available. Another thing that these consumers of data can do is refer to data about credentials after they're no longer available. So we can do a look back. What did it look like in a certain year, for example? What were the competencies required for a credential? And we can create the applications that compare and contrast credentials, which prior to the CTDL was not possible. So I'm going to jump over to publishing, but I'll just pause there for a moment and see if anybody has any questions. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and keep going. The registry participants that were already using the publisher prior to the launch on December 7th, all of your account information was transferred to the Credential Engine's new account system. And I'm going to go over that system in just a moment. But the important thing to know is if you were already using the publisher tool before the launch, your account is still there. It's just been transferred to the new system. And there's some specific next steps for you to do to make sure that you could access that account and confirm it, and then submit your organization for approval to publish to the registry. So then you can go back into that publisher, finish the work that you were doing on the credentials you were working on, get those approved and published into the registry. This deck is in the download chat below the chat, and we'll also be emailing it out, so no worries about trying to remember this right this very moment. So let me talk a little bit about this new authentication or account system. The new account system is for anyone who wants to publish credential information or quality assurance information into the registry. It has a three-step process, and it's really seamless. It's all done in the account system that automatically sends notifications out as emails, and within the system you can see your notifications. But the purpose is for the users, and so those are the individuals who are actually doing the work and using the systems to publish, and the organization you're affiliated with, to agree to the Credential Engine's terms of use and other policies. So it is a process where step 1, you create an account. Step 2, you enter your organization information. And I'll show you what that screen looks like in just a moment. And through entering that organization information, you're going to identify the types of publishing that you want to do, and then Credential Engine can approve it. Once you approve it, once Credential approves it, then you automatically receive a notification letting you and others on your team that are with that organization know that it's been approved, and then you can begin to publish. So let me just do a real quick screen share. You're going to see my screen kind of gray out for just a moment. Okay, so this is the Credential Engine account system. You can see it's credentialengine.org/accounts. And you go here to register. You can log back in to see your profile and your information, manage your account, and there's a link to get started. So I'm just going to go over that three-part process that I just talked about in the slide. So the first step is to create your account. So if you don't already have an account with Credential Engine, you're going to follow the link to create an account. And I'm sure, those of you looking at this are thinking, oh, this looks a lot like other accounts I set up. So yes, you're going to set up an account for yourself with your email, a profile name, first name, last name. Of course, you create a password and some information, including your professional title, other contact information, agree to all of the policies and terms, and submit. As you submit to the Credential Engine, automatically you're going to be receiving an email that you'll need to check. And not only are you receiving the email, but you're also going to see anything that gets emailed to you in the account system. So at the very top of the account system, you will see messages. Of course, I get to see a lot of messages because I work on the entire system, but you only see your own messages. And so your account confirmation message would be there, as well as the message that you're going to get when you follow your next step. And your next step is to create an organization. So you're going to have an account. You could have more than one user with an organization. They would all have to have accounts. And one of the users with the organization is going to need to submit the organization information. And this is really important because here you're going to identify what kind of publishing you want to do. Are you a credentialing organization, or are you a quality assurance organization? You're also going to let us know what type of publishing method you would like to use. Are you planning on doing manual entry in the publisher? Do you want to use the Registry Assistant API, or do you want to use bulk upload? You'll provide some basic information about the organization. You can see the little red symbols means information is required. So we're going to need to know some information about the organization, location information, sector and type information. And the other thing is just a publishing estimate. And it's just an estimate, so it doesn't have to be carved in stone. But what we want to know is we want to know based on a type of credential, an estimated count, And if you have multiple types of credentials to publish, you would just simply click Add New Publishing Estimate, and you could add as many types of credentials and counts as you like. And again, it's just an estimate. And then you're going to, if you're not quite done or you're not sure of something, you could save without submitting, but ultimately you're going to want to save and submit for approval. Once you do that, Credential Engine is automatically notified. As I had just indicated, you're also notified, and any of your users on your team that have joined your team through the Credential Engine account system receive an email and a notification, and it will tell you exactly what's going on. It will provide direct links, so you will of course have to log into the system, but it will, once you log in, it will redirect you to exactly what you need to see in the system. So that's the account system. And then once your account is approved, say example for publishing, then you're going to receive an email directing you to the publisher where you begin to do your work. So let me go ahead and stop there and see if there's any questions. And I'll move this out of the way and go back to the PowerPoint. And we'll talk a little bit about the publishing options. Okay. Let's see. Why is the FEIN a required field? The FEIN is currently a required field because we want to have some ways to verify an organization. We would expect that, that any organization that goes to set up an account is a legitimate organization. Now, we will be making some changes because as it goes international, clearly an FEIN is not, international. It's a U.S. Based identifier for employers. So that is the reason. And will this information be made public? We are debating. No, it's not public information. It's your profile information. And what you would do is for the accounts that you're setting up, it's going to be your email. Just like any account you set up, you don't share an account. Each member of a team sets up their own account with their own email. And then when you saw me screen sharing the information about the organization, that is really intended to be, say, a kind of generic, info at kind of email address. The system does not contact that email address at all. It would only contact the individuals who create an account. Okay, sure. All right, let me go ahead and move on to the publishing procedure. So I went over this new account system, and regardless of the type of methodology you want to use to publish to the registry, that account is required, agreeing to the terms of use is required, and so is approval. So the Credential Registry is supporting the publishing of credential information, quality assurance information that came up earlier in the chat. So, third-party quality assurance organizations such as accreditors, that's just one example. But we can also publish competency frameworks that may not be directly related to credentials. So there's a lot of standalone competency frameworks up there. Some of you, for example, may be familiar with DQP. That's an example of a framework that can be published to the registry, but it's not necessarily directly related or referred to by a credential. So no matter what you're publishing, you go through that account system that I just showed you, and that account system is supporting two types of publishing. So remember I said that the Credential Engine isn't an aggregator, so we're not going out there blindly and just scraping the web and getting information without people's approval or organization approval. Self-publishing is when an organization is going to pick one of the methodologies to publish and publish on their own. Third-party publishing is, say, for example, you're with a post-secondary institution and you have a catalog system or a student information system or a badging platform. Those would be examples of third-party publishing where you can give, the organization that owns the credentials can give that third party permission to publish on their behalf. That is handled through the account system, and when a third party requests to publish credentials on behalf of, say, a college, the system forces that college to show, attest their approval to that within the system. So the Credential Engine won't approve a third-party publisher until that third-party publisher's customers or publishees have approved that relationship. Once that approval is made, the account system automatically issues a key to whichever methodology you have selected to use. For those of you who are familiar with the publisher, that's the manual entry. The bulk upload is best described in, say, a format of spreadsheets, and it's done through the publisher. And the API structured data is more of a developer type interface or a system interface that is more direct and meant for real-time publishing, which of course is, you know, the preferred route. But these are all available right now. So let me pause and see if there's anything else that came in. Doesn't look like it. So scale up your publishing of credentials. You know, as of the launch on December 7th, these technologies for publishing are available, and what we're doing is, as requests come in through the account system for using the bulk upload or the API, we're scheduling one-on-one webinars with the organization that made the request, so we can kind of go over the options with that organization, you know, and make sure that they can proceed and that we can provide assistance. So all of these things are available. We encourage you to go ahead and move forward with confirming your existing account. And if you're new to the system, right after this webinar, you can jump on over and create your new account as well. So I already kind of covered these publishing options, and this slide just shows a little bit more information, so this will just be a good reference for you after the webinar. So when we're talking about the API or Application Programming Interface, as I said, that's more, it's not intended to be a manual entry. It's where you have data that can be put into some kind of a structure, and through that structure, it's mapped to our Registry Assistant API and can be pushed as updates are made to the registry in real time. The bulk upload, again, you know, one of the best ways to kind of visualize that is think spreadsheet. We would provide kind of the columns, what goes in the columns and rows that you would want to fill the spreadsheet with. Now, this would be a good method if you have a way to kind of extract data out of the system and populate a spreadsheet. If you're going to manually update a spreadsheet, well, you might want to just do the manual entry. However, with the manual entry, we do recommend that for kind of small, stable numbers of credentials. However, we do understand that many organizations kind of need a pathway to go from the manual entry, you know, to bulk upload to the API. So we want everyone to know that we're working with any organization, you know, that's interested in publishing to, you know, get it going and help the organization, you know, achieve that path. Now this year the technical team will be looking at how we can harvest CTDL structured data from the web. So that would still require having an account. So if you can put your CTDL structured data on the web, you would go set up an account, you would identify that you would like us to come get your CTDL structured data, and we'll have a basically, you know, a crawler type mechanism in place where we can go and pull that data, you know, and bring it in and index it, much like Google does. But the important thing to note here is that we won't go out and just crawl random sites. It will have to be CTDL structured data. And again, that account system comes into play because we need approval to put that data into the registry. All right, so I believe that I have covered the, the account system and the kind of publishing options. And I do have a quick question for you. So I just put a little polling pod in the middle of the screen here, and we're just curious to know, among those in the webinar, have you confirmed your new Credential Engine account? That will just give us a good idea as to those of you who are already kind of participating with the Credential Engine and those of you who are new. And again, we encourage you after this webinar, if you haven't done that yet, please do confirm your account, finish setting up your organization. If you're new to Credential Engine, same process. Go on over there, set up your account, and confirm it, and submit your request to publish to the registry. Let's see, let me stop a moment. I see a couple things in the chat here. Oh, hi, Nate, Otto. Good to see you in the webinar. In the case of a badges remote, 5,000 organizations to publish. Yeah. Nate, actually, I think we have a meeting set up with you soon, and no, you'll be able to invite them. So we will want that organization to indicate approval, but you'll be able to invite them in and through the system, so it's all automated. They'll receive an email and a direct link to be able to go directly to it and indicate their approval. And we are meeting with you very soon, so we can certainly talk more about it and see if you have some other ideas about that. And can we utilize a combination of entry? Yeah, that's a really good question, and actually, yeah, you could. Now, I would say that the API is a kind of all or none, meaning you're using the API or you're not. However, with the manual entry and bulk upload, it could definitely be a combination, because the bulk upload is through the publisher tool, which is that manual entry tool. And so what it does is it basically populates screens that you can then augment with additional information. So let's say you're able to extract some information and bulk upload it, just so you don't have to do so much manual entry, but there's some credentials or maybe all credentials that would benefit from additional information. You can then augment that manually in the publisher. And let's see, I think it looks like we're ready to move on to some next steps and reminders.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much, Jeannie, for covering all of that in detail. Just wanted to sort of do a quick recap of the next steps. So if you have not already authenticated your account, please go ahead and do so. And if you're new to Credential Engine, you'll have to start by creating your account at that link there. And then we would strongly encourage you to publish more of your credentials. If you have just been sort of testing the system with one or two, we encourage you to publish all of your credentials, and we'll work with you. If you're not sure what the best way to do that, we'd be happy to be a resource for you to figure out which method works best for you if you've just been using the manual publisher for now. And then once you have published the information, you'll have to go in and approve it. So if you haven't done that for the credentials and the other information that you have published so far, please go in and approve that information. And then going forward, just remember that as you publish, you'll have to approve it so that it can go live. And then, of course, stay connected with us by signing up for updates, so you'll know when we have future webinars, and please do tune in to the webinars that Carrie mentioned earlier. So I think it looks like we have some additional questions coming in here. We'll keep our eye on the chat, and we'll start answering those. So Janine asked earlier about the currency and accuracy policies. I sent over those links to those policies, but Scott or Jeannie, I don't know if you wanted to just talk about those a little bit in more detail, or add anything to that.
I'm just trying to find the actual question, but all of the policies related to the registry and to working with Credential Engine are in the footers of our website, and I appreciate you sending the links. The currency policy basically states that if you're doing a manual upload, if you're manually publishing, you tell us how frequently that credential will be, how frequently you anticipate that credential being updated, and we will come back and check with you. Sometimes we know that some credentials are updated every 6 months or a year. Sometimes they're 3 to 5 years in process. I think those timelines, those cycles are shortening more and more, but we want to make sure that we have that policy in place for those who are doing a manual. If you're doing an API or the harvesting, then it's a little bit less of an issue because that's happening on more of a real-time updating basis. And then in the bulk upload, chances are we're working with you and have a process in place to bulk upload your data every time you update it internally, and that's, I'm guessing, is going to be generally about a year on a year cycle that we do those new uploads, so the data will be kept accurate in that way.
Thanks, Scott. Are there any other questions? Feel free to type them in the chat, or I don't know if we have the audio enabled, but if we could enable that audio, we can have people chime in with their questions using their audio as well. I do see a
question that Connie had about who to reach out to for bulk upload or API. Connie, and you or anyone else who's interested, the easiest thing to do is just to send an email to info@credentialengine.org. If you send it there, we'll direct it to the right place. It's just the easiest email to remember, but if you happen to have an email for one of the team members, you can send it to us and we'll get it to the right people. That's info@credentialengine.org is kind of your catch-all way to ping the organization, and we will make sure that it gets responded to. We'd love to work on an API with you.
And Scott, that's good information, and but just so everyone knows, go to that account system, set up your account, request those publishing options. You can select more than one, and we have a process already in place where once you do that, you will be followed up with. So you can send that email, but you don't have to send the email. Go to that account system, set up your account, request whatever you think you might be interested in. You can check all of them because, again, if you do that, in particular for bulk upload, in particular for the API, it's automatically in our process. You will be scheduled to meet with the tech team and we can talk it through.
Any other questions? We've left plenty of time so that we could address any of your questions. We know there's a lot of updates and new stuff going on, so we wanted to make sure we addressed everybody's questions here. I don't see any more questions coming in, so I think we can close out for today. On the last slide, you'll see contact information for the team, so feel free to reach out to us if any questions do pop up. And we thank you for your time here today and appreciate your participation in this project.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Have a great day.